Some foods can sit on your shelf for 10, 20, even 30 years and still be perfectly safe to eat. Sounds impossible, right? I'm talking about everyday items like honey, rice, and salt. What makes these foods practically immortal while others spoil in just a few days? It's a fascinating mix of science, chemistry, and a little bit of ancient wisdom. Today, we're going to break down exactly what makes these foods last forever. Let's get into it. First, let's understand why most foods go bad. The main culprits are tiny, invisible invaders, microorganisms like bacteria, mold, and yeast. These little guys thrive in environments with moisture, air, and moderate temperatures. They break down the food, causing it to rot and become unsafe. Besides these living organisms, there are also chemical reactions happening. Oxidation, which is what turns a cut apple brown, and enzymatic breakdown also contribute to spoilage. So a food's lifespan is really a race against these natural processes. So, what's the secret to stopping this process? It's all about creating an environment where those tiny invaders just can't survive. The number one strategy is removing water. Dehydration is key. Without water, microorganisms can't grow or reproduce. Another powerful method is using high concentrations of sugar or salt. These ingredients act like sponges, drawing water out of any microbial cells that dare to show up, effectively mummifying them. High acidity also creates a hostile environment. And of course, modern techniques like sterilization and vacuum sealing remove the air and kill off any existing microbes, putting the food in a state of suspended animation. Now for the fun part, the all-stars of the pantry. Let's start with honey. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still perfectly edible. How? Honey has a very low water content and an incredibly high sugar concentration. It's also naturally acidic and contains small amounts of hydrogen peroxide, which acts as a natural antibacterial agent. It's nature's perfect preservative. Next up, white rice. If you store it properly in an airtight container, away from moisture, white rice can easily last for 20 to 30 years. The key here is that it's white rice. The milling process removes the bran and germ, which contain oils. Brown rice, on the other hand, still has these oils, which can go rancid over time, giving it a much shorter shelf life of only about 6 months. So for long-term storage, white rice is the undisputed champion. Then we have salt. Pure salt is a mineral, not an organic substance. This means it can't spoil or be broken down by microorganisms. It's literally rock. For centuries, salt wasn't just a seasoning. It was one of the most effective preservatives known to humanity, used to cure meats and fish by drawing out all the moisture. It will last quite literally forever. And what about sugar? Much like salt, sugar is a master of dehydration. It's hygroscopic, meaning it attracts and holds onto water molecules. When bacteria or mold land on sugar, the sugar sucks the water right out of them, stopping them in their tracks. The only thing that can happen to sugar is that it might clump if exposed to humidity, but it never actually spoils. Don't forget about dried beans and lentils. Kept dry, these can remain safe to eat for decades. Over time, their nutritional value might degrade slightly and they might take a bit longer to cook, but they won't become unsafe. This highlights an important distinction. Safe to eat isn't always the same as at peak nutritional quality. Let's quickly run through a few more. Pure maple syrup, if it's sealed, has such a high sugar concentration that it lasts indefinitely. Once opened, you'll want to refrigerate it to prevent mold. Hard liquors like vodka, rum, and whiskey have a high alcohol content that prevents any microbial growth. The flavor might change slightly if they're exposed to light or air, but they will never spoil. The same goes for pure vanilla extract, which has an alcohol base that preserves it forever. What about things like powdered milk or instant coffee? If they're vacuum sealed, they can last for years. The key is dehydration. No water, no life. And finally, ghee. Ghee is clarified butter, meaning all the milk solids and water have been removed. What's left is pure butterfat, which is far more resistant to spoilage than regular butter. A sealed jar of ghee can last for more than a decade. So what's the deep science here? It boils down to a concept called water activity, or AW. This measures the amount of available water in a food for microbial growth. A water activity level below 0.6 is generally considered safe, and foods like honey and dry pasta are well below this threshold. The pH level is also crucial. Highly acidic foods like pickled vegetables inhibit the growth of most bacteria. And of course, temperature and light play a huge role. Cold, dark places slow down chemical reactions and stop microbes from multiplying. It's all about controlling these environmental factors. Humans figured this out a long time ago, long before we even understood the chemistry. Ancient preservation methods were all about manipulating these principles. Drying food in the sun, smoking meats over a fire, salting fish, fermenting vegetables into things like kimchi or sauerkraut, and even submerging foods in honey. These were all ingenious ways to make food last through lean times. People were using chemistry before it was even called chemistry. Today, we've taken those principles and supercharged them with technology. Vacuum sealing removes oxygen, stopping oxidation in its tracks. Freeze drying, a technique perfected by NASA for space missions, removes nearly all water while preserving the food's structure and nutrients. Canning uses heat to sterilize the food and then seals it in an airtight container. These modern methods allow us to store food safely for years, even decades. This brings us to a common misunderstanding: food labels. Let's bust a few myths. Myth number 1: if a food is past its expiration date, it's unsafe. The truth is, it really depends on the food. For dry goods like the ones we've discussed, the date is usually a best before or best by date, which indicates peak quality, not safety. Many of these foods are perfectly fine months or even years later. This date is a manufacturer's guarantee of freshness, not a hard and fast spoilage deadline. So the real secret to making these immortal foods actually last is storage. You can have a bag of perfectly good white rice, but if you leave it open in a humid garage, it will spoil. Humidity and sunlight are the enemies. The golden rule is to store these items in airtight containers in a cool, dark, and dry place. Simple mistakes can ruin everything. Keeping your salt or sugar containers open invites moisture, which leads to clumping. Refrigerating honey can cause it to crystallize, though it's still safe. Proper storage is everything. Let's do a quick recap of the longest-lasting foods. At the top, we have honey and salt, which lasts forever. Sugar and pure vanilla extract also join the Forever Club. White rice can last up to 30 years. Dried beans can go for over 25 years. Hard liquor is another forever item. And ghee can easily last for over 10 years when sealed. It's pretty amazing when you think about it, so why does any of this matter? Well, for starters, understanding this can be incredibly useful for emergency preparedness, long-term travel, or just building a resilient pantry. It also has huge economic and environmental benefits. When we know which foods last, we waste less. Every year, tons of perfectly good food gets thrown out simply because it's past a best-by date. By understanding the science, we can shop smarter, store our food better, and reduce our impact on the planet. So to answer our initial question, why do some foods last forever? It's because they create a fortress against time and decay. They either lack the water that life needs, or they're armed with natural preservatives like sugar, salt, or acid. In a way, nature already invented the perfect preservatives long before we did. We just had to learn its secrets. Thanks so much for watching. I'm curious, which of these forever foods do you have sitting in your kitchen right now? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this and learned something new, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world around us. See you in the next one.